In this scene, they're both sleeping out on the screen porch, and then they have a conversation. We both lay down and were silent, listening to the katydids, cicadas, crickets, frogs, and other creatures that we could not name. I liked the cicadas best. They sounded ancient. The moon drifted behind a moving black sky streaked with silver clouds, only giving occasional light to us. After a time, Nell finally said, "Sometimes I wonder why I ever left this place. Ran off to New York and D.C. and Atlanta and just all over hell and back. What was I thinking? I want to go live in New York City someday," I said. "I do love New York," Nell said, "but it's a hard place to live, Eli. Once you get out of college, you ought to go live there for maybe 1 year, get that out of your system, and then you come back home." "I don't think I'll go to college," I said. "Oh, yes, you will, buddy. Your mother will make sure that. You didn't. And I regret it now," she said. "You didn't come home after a year either," I said. I was in a challenging mood. "And I regret that too," she said, her voice changing as she rolled over onto her side. I stared at the shadows on the porch ceiling. "Sometimes I do, but I wouldn't change my life." "Did you get fired from your job up in Washington?" I had been dying to ask her this for a long time. She had worked for some kind of civil rights department editing its magazine. Matt had once told me that he overheard his parents saying that Nell worked for a communist newspaper. But when I asked her about that, she had said Matt and his folks were idiots. "No, I quit," she said. I could hear her fumbling around on the floor, the crack of her Zippo. For a moment, her face blazed up orange as she lit her cigarette. I hadn't realized how close she lay beside my cot. "I wanted to come home a while." "You missed us all too bad?" I asked, knowing that she had come home because she was sick. "Well, yeah, of course I did," she said. Then for a long time I was aware of her collecting her thoughts. It's strange how our senses become in the dark. I knew for certain that she was thinking, preparing what she would say next, just as I had been certain that she was still awake while we had lain there listening to the night sounds. "But mostly," she said, "I miss the trees." "They have trees in Washington, though." She exhaled smoke loudly. "But there's not a tree in the world like the ones you grow up with. You never forget them, and the trees remember you." It seemed to me that every time I had a conversation with Nell, I had another reason to worship her. I knew that my father felt as if she had betrayed him during the war, and a part of me held that against her, but her whole being usually kept that pulsing doubt about her at bay. Besides, my loyalties to him grew weaker every summer day. I sat up on one elbow, looking down to the red dot of her cigarette. "If I tell you something, will you keep it secret?" "You know I will," she said. "I can hear the trees. If I put my hand up to them and concentrate, they talk to me." "What do they say?" she asked. She was completely serious, not making fun of me the way many people might have. "Well, it's not like words really. It's more like a feeling, like they're speaking to me. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Seems like they're always saying, 'I am here.' But at the same time, I never really hear the words. But I just know that's what they're saying." She was silent. There were only the cicadas and crickets, a little breeze that slithered through and set the chimes to ringing. "Do you think I'm crazy?" I said. She sat up just enough that moonlight fell on her face. "No," she said. "I think you're one of the best people I've ever known in my life, Eli." And so originally, the first title of the book is in that scene. "The Trees Remember Us" was the first title. And then my agent and publisher and everybody hated that title. And then I named it "The Secret Trees," which is also in there somewhere. And they liked that, but then I rewrote a scene, and that's how I wrote the Eli the Good scene. And then I said, "No, I love Eli the Good," and so we changed the title. So it had those three titles.